I don't want to be right. I just want to make money.
Today's guest is Jeremy Haynes, the marketing genius who has worked with some of the biggest names in the online business world, including Ty Lopez, Dan Locke, and Tom Bilyeu. From turning small brands into multi-million-dollar machines to mastering the psychology behind sales and advertising, Jeremy knows exactly how to scale to $1 million a month and stay there.
How do you make millions for the people that you work with?
It's a game, okay? It's my favorite game to play ever. I can hate B and C players. B and C players are like cancers within organizations.
You never know where the next revenue is going to come from if you're at a certain level. And I think that creates anxiety, and that anxiety then usually leads to them focusing on the pebbles instead of focusing on the fucking rock.
Well, everybody that we work with has a fucking baller lifestyle.
I feel like nowadays everybody just wants to be fucking cool instead of making fucking money. You know
Well,
what I
it
mean?
depends on who you know, like everybody I know wants to get rich. So many little burner phones I use just for secret shopping. And I got like this like little drawer, like flip phones and shit, you know?
Say hello to my little friend.
If you constantly have to maintain a facade, but you actually don't believe it, it fucks with you. I want to be known for the guy. Okay, I swear I call people out on their bullshit because ultimately I'm in it for the long run. If I can't do it for the long run, then I'm not going to succeed at it in the long run either.
I consider advertising gambling. You know, you can make a shitload of money and invest. The poorest people and the richest people still all have that same thought. Dude, that's the best way to think is...
So, Jeremy, how do you make millions for the people that you work with?
It's a game, okay? It's my favorite game to play ever, of getting people to $1 million months. I think that there's very few businesses on earth that even have a probability to achieve it. So first thing is vetting the fuck out of the people that we work with and seeing if there's even a probability for that to exist. A lot of that's math based on their offers, based on the existing talent they have within their organizations. There's heavy lifting across the board in all departments when you get to $1 million months. 0.1% of all businesses even reach that potential of income. So moral of the story is it really starts with the vetting and just, does the person even have a probability to pull it off, okay? From there, as crazy as it sounds, okay, or as ridiculous as it might sound to some people who are less experienced in doing it, it's really a game of momentum and just amplification. We typically try to find people that already figured something out. They've typically got somewhere between like 100 and 300K in a month. And we just start to come in and push it up. You know, there's very specific like funnel strategies. There's very specific ad strategies that we run. I'm happy to go into detail about that. But from like an overview perspective, the right funnel and the right ad strategies and just starting to put some serious spend behind it really starts to expose the flaws within an organization or within their sales and marketing process. And then, dude, it just becomes a game of like aggressively solving problems, you know? A lot of people out there, they just sit on things that come up that are what hold them back from more money. When we come in, like, we're fucking tweaking, dude. Like, we do not tolerate anybody holding back the revenue of the business, and neither should the business owners that we're working with, ideally, when it comes to like some of the traits and characteristics that we vet for. So anyway, when something comes up, you aggressively attack it, you overcome it. And ideally, the momentum continues. You know, there will be times where you contract from certain problems that come up. It's not like smooth sailing, you know, it's just up and to the right, you know, to $1 million a month. There's generally a little bit of contraction that comes on some of these problem cycles. But overall, as ridiculous as it might sound, I don't actually think it's that hard of a game. You know, it's just when you know the right things to do, you dramatically increase the probability of that happening, you know. So yeah, anyway, hope that explained a little bit.
It does. You mentioned you look in companies that are making 100 to 300K, and you mentioned numbers and pricing and so on and so forth. What kind of profit margins do you need in order to be aggressive with ad spend at all?
Okay, so listen to this, right? So when I come in as a marketing agency into a deal, we charge a rev share based on net from actions that are trackable back to us, okay? So the game of hitting $1 million months is actually to get them to $1 million in profit from actions that are trackable back to us. Okay, so to be clear, like, I need their profit margins to be favorable to that outcome being like, you know, good. To be clear, I'll give you a great example. Like I had this guy, I won't be too descriptive of his business, so I could articulate a little more detail. But to be clear, he had about 20% margins. Okay. And when we he had like a 50 to 100K offer, give or take which offer we were looking at. But a lot of it was like physical goods.
Oh, shit.
And a minority of it was like digital and intangibles.
How much revenue was he at in a month?
To be clear, this guy was already doing anywhere from like 500K to $1 million a month organically, but none of it was from paid ads.
Okay.
So we came in and we were like, we can probably tack on another $1 million a month, maybe more than that, just based on the price, based on the fact he's already got momentum, based on the fact he's already an industry leader for what he does. But I mean, we start closing deals and like, then they reveal to me, hey, a lot of this, by the way, doesn't have a significant margin on it.
Mm-hmm.
And to be clear, like when we initially vetted out that deal and that relationship, dude, the guy didn't make it seem that way at all. He made it seem like he was upwards of like 70% margins. He's even in a country, to be clear, where like it's a tax haven. So I'm thinking like this guy cares so much about his margins. He's living like, one of these third world places to save on taxes. So yeah, anyway, when we find out it's 20%, like we got rid of that deal in like 2 months from there because once again, like mathematically for us to get paid what we want to get paid out of a deal, which is $100K a month, hey, dude, just probability wise sucked. Most of the people that we work with have margins that are at least 50% or greater. To be fair, a lot of that can be just front end margins, but you can juice up how much profit you're able to pull from focusing on lifetime value, upsells, generating additional cash flow off of people from, existing customers and doing it in a tight time frame. So anyway, long story short, ideally they have 50% margins or greater, but it varies per person.
What are the things in terms of staff that you look at?
Dude, yeah, great question. A players. And any A player would agree with this, fucking hate B and C players, okay? B and C players are like cancers within organizations. They slow everything down. They're highly political. What do I mean by political, right? I mean, like, they'll like go snitch on you if you're pressing them, and they'll be like, hey, this guy's being an egotistical asshole or something, And in reality, it's like Michael Jordan, if you've ever watched any of his interviews that he's done, like after he's well retired, he'll say things like, man, people might call me an asshole, but like I'm trying to win fucking championships, dude. I'm trying to actualize on potential. I'm trying to push people to, a high level of performance.
Yeah.
And dude, B and C players hate being pressed. Like they're there to work in this very house that we're in right now. Okay.
Yeah.
It's out here in the farms in Miami. And I had to get internet. I had to get a dedicated fiber optic line ran to this house. And it was with AT&T's business division. This division in their business, dude, I would fucking nuke this thing if I was their boss, bro. They are some of the slowest, most political people like ever. And they're a perfect example. When I would hit them up to do something, they would immediately like point the finger at somebody else. Be like, oh no, it's this person's responsibility over here. And then that person would do the same fucking thing. They'd be like, oh no. It's not my responsibility. It's that person's responsibility. I got that same runaround via email. Not even on the phone because they don't answer phones. B and C players hate speed. They go like turtles. So anyway, long story short, dude, it took 9 different people. And then you know what it ends up taking to get the action I need done? I have to threaten to sue. I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to name every single person in this email chain personally in a lawsuit from how much money y'all are losing me by not getting this shit set up in the time frame that you contractually agreed to get us up. You know what happened immediately? They get it fucking set up, like literally within 48 hours.
All of a sudden.
See, so like, dude, B and C players, they only move under threat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like when we come into an organization, we just, it's really easy to tell, right? When somebody else is operating at a high level versus when the people that you meet and talk to are operating at these like fucking turtle speeds, highly politicized individuals, and like don't really have a lot going for them. So without exaggeration, like we'll go into their organizations and like secret shop their sales teams, like try to get in contact with their customer service divisions, literally try to like interview collectively, like vet for different scenario-based problems that they might be having that could indicate low talent levels. Because at the end of the day, let's look at it like this, right? You take a company from $300K a month to $1 million a month. That's 3 times the volume they were dealing with before. What else happens besides an increase in revenue when you do that?
It's just going to break the procedures if they're not super tight.
Well, everything 3x is in speed.
Yeah.
Problems amplify by 3x.
Mm-hmm.
Quantity of customer service things increase by 3x. Refunds increase by 3x. Once again, just like quantity of things that the salespeople are going to have to do, quantity of people the salespeople are going to have to follow up with, time that the sales management's going to have to review different calls if they're doing that, which they should. All these different little things start to just fucking compound, dude. And keep in mind, like, we're not just trying to get to $1 million a month gross, dude. We're trying to push it well above that to a couple million a month, ideally. So anyway, the staff are really like a huge make it or break it scenario for us because, I mean, do you know how it goes? Like when you go to hire people, it's like that's one of the slowest things. I mean, you have to be extremely intentional about it. When you're looking at A players, you have to headhunt. And the craziest part, once again, is like you then have to go through the adaption period, even if it's an A player or not, like where they have to get acclimated to the job that they're in.
Yeah.
So anyway, ideally, once again, they already have that in place. So we don't have to deal with like fucking 2-3 months worth of convincing them they need new staff and then getting the new staff in place. Huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you do that internally with your company?
What do you mean with
The
A players?
Headhunting, getting A players.
Dude, great question. First of all, whenever you see an A player out in the wild, it's like you recruit them. You immediately, no matter what, like get in contact. Just network essentially and get that person in communication with you. And you'd be amazed. Like I find it really easy as an A player myself to like attract other A players within my organization because, A players like look at once again what they care about, right? It's growth, revenue, right? I want personal development. I want accountability. I want to just expand. I want more. I want to be held accountable to do more. And it's a great example, once again, like one of my favorite things, I go courtside to the basketball games here in Miami all the time, and I intentionally sit by the player benches. Okay, it's one of my favorite things to do, to both talk shit to the away team, but to also like literally, because you could like hear them talking shit. Like you could watch them in real time. Dude, and some of these teams, like they have the best of the best, okay? Because they're in the NBA in the first place. The level in which they hold each other accountable, and they all fucking love it, dude. Like they love it, And that's my point is like, it's very easy, to go out there and just be yourself fully when you're an A player and find immediately like almost attraction from other people who are like you, wanting to connect. Okay. And then to be fair, a lot of it's done via social media nowadays. So it's like you and I connect on social after this, right? It's like, well, you'll see what I got going on in my life. I'll see what you got going on in your life. And we'll just kind of find opportunities to do something, if something ever comes up. And that's kind of how it goes nowadays. Like A players are rarely in between things.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
They're usually like fully balls deep in something that is taking a lot from them, because they're generally fully committed to whatever they do. Yeah. But occasionally they get fucked, or occasionally something's not as appealing as it used to be. And like those transition moments are the moments you want to.
That's where you strike.
Try to jump in and be like.
It's funny enough. In my first business, my first multi-million-dollar business was dating advice. So I would just teach guys how to get girls. And it's exactly the same with very attractive women. There's always a window. They always go from shitty boyfriend to shitty boyfriend. And then exactly in between, and you can actually see it because you mentioned social media. You can see it on the way they're posting on social media.
100%.
The window is open.
Oh, yeah. All those posts all of a sudden get scrolled.
Yeah, exactly. All the thirst traps. I'm like, a little more skin. You streamers say, hey, by the way, what are you doing? Yeah. And then boom. And then, and the thing is what I really noticed, especially with sales staff, we the last 2 years, we've really just had to figure out the hiring, ramping up and training of sales staff. And for us, we really realized like so many offers just bullshit high quality sales staff into working with them. They're like, oh yeah, no, we're making this much money. This is our usual closing rate and so on and so forth. And then all these sales guys that come in and it takes, 2, 3, 4 months to find out how full of shit the CEO was in the beginning. And then they're like, well, dude, motherfucker, like, I'm not getting the minimum amount of calls that you said I was going to get.
Yeah.
And then, so a lot of these A players are in limbo, and that's why you strike.
Yeah, 100%. They jump ship. They're happy to do it, especially when you got a good opportunity. That's also the cool thing, right? Like when you're working with other A players, they're typically networked with other A players.
Yeah.
So like one of the other easy ways is just quite literally asking the people already working with you at a high level, hey, who that wants to come in here that's like us. And that's one of my favorite ways to recruit as well, network effect.
Yeah. How many people do you have right now in your company?
I operate lean, dude. I got 8 people in my organization right now. To be clear, I've had up to 27, and I believe it's actually a low status thing to have a higher quantity of staff nowadays. I know more people making more money, to be clear, in the types of businesses we run. I want to be fair in saying, like, we're not talking about publicly traded companies here. We're not talking about like fucking DocuSign. Who knows how many fucking employees. We're talking about internet-based businesses. And okay, I actually find that outside of status, it's essentially almost like a signal, as to whether you're operating efficiently or not. I find typically amongst like my student base, like my inner circle students, my even clients sometimes, like the higher quantities of staff they have generally signal inefficiency. They generally signal that like they're not hiring a bunch of high impact people, and that once again they just have a fleet of fucking turds in the staff. So, dude, my team, we get the fucking work done of, without exaggeration, probably like 40 people.
Yes,
because we hire high level people who are extremely efficient and extremely effective at what they do, and we don't judge our staff based on time and effort like normal staff are judged. I'll pay these people by the hour. I pay them to generate results. That's how we're judged as an organization. So we have that culture within our staff. So simply put, I mean, I know this kind of sounds a little ridiculous, but these people are working fucking 24/7 or like 8 hours, 12 hours a day. They're just focused on the key things that come up that drive the most revenue for our clients and our business.
Yeah. So what are their responsibilities of these 8 people?
Depends on the position. I mean, you got sales staff, you got marketing helpers, you got executive assistants, you got videographers, editors. Each one has a different responsibility, but the main thing being, once again, it's just what's the highest revenue-driven action that you could possibly do right now, and like that's all we want you to give a fuck about. We want you to reprioritize whatever you think you need to do solely based on that intent. What can I do that makes the most money right now out of anything else I could do, and I'm going to drop and ignore all the little shit.
I fucking love it, man.
That culture is great. I'm telling you, like there's a really good book, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And it's a purple and yellow book with like a little bit of white on the cover. If you ever look it up,
I'll get it right after this. Can you write this?
So listen to this, okay? So in this book, he talks about pebbles versus boulders, okay? And he talks about like pebbles being small, little insignificant shit that doesn't really get anything done, doesn't make an impact. In this case, when you look at it from a revenue perspective, like barely fucking makes any money at all. These are like monotonous tasks that, to be rather direct, don't even need to get done. Mm-hmm. But most people aren't comfortable ignoring those little things. They actually get sidetracked and like focus on them. The boulders are the things that take significant amounts of effort, significant amounts of time, or sometimes, once again, just need like all of your attention and effort, even if it doesn't take a lot of effort and time, in order to move the boulder, okay? Peter Thiel, you know what Peter Thiel is?
Yeah.
Peter Thiel also talks about this, and he talked about it in the sense of what size problems you should focus on. He talked about it originally from a perspective of creating a moat, like a competitive moat to avoid people being able to compete with you. He said, you should be focused on a problem of such significance that if anybody else would even consider putting attention on it, they'd be like, fuck that. That takes way too much. And like, this is like, as an example, like Elon Musk building fucking rockets that land themselves. You could look at the entire planet and be like, well, why didn't that happen sooner? Everybody who was in rockets looked at that and said, no fucking shot, like we're not doing this. And anyway, my point being, like, that obviously creates a competitive moat, but more importantly, like, that's a great example of the boulders. It's a great example of like the problems that matter. We're not building rockets or anything. We're just making people money. But at the end of the day, like, same kind of logic. We try to actively teach and hold the staff accountable to not doing the little bullshit stuff that most organizations would think need done. Does that make sense?
Damn.
Yeah, I love that shit too. That powerful. That's where I learned that.
It's such a higher level thinking. It's such a good idea to think about it, because so many business owners, I think they have anxiety around their business.
Oh yeah,
because you never know where the next revenue is going to come from if you're at a certain level. You're always like, oh shit, sometimes we have good months, sometimes we have bad months, and I think that creates anxiety, and that anxiety then usually leads to overcorrection on the CEO side. They try to have control over everything, and that's exactly what you said. That's them focusing on the pebbles instead of focusing on the fucking rock.
Well, a lot of revenue inconsistency also comes from just not doing math and understanding like the lagging effect of revenue, right? What you and I do today doesn't actually have a probability to create revenue impact for us today in most instances. It's called the bullwhip effect, where like if I take an action right now, it's like the smallest amount of energy is initially in the whip. The larger amount of energy where it actually cracks is much farther away from the point of origin. In any kind of like revenue-based action, there's like I don't know, give or take, it's not a static time frame to be fair, but as an example, it could be like 1 week to like a month or 2 months away from you actually seeing the expansion or the contraction from specific actions happening. I'll give you a great example. We had a client, they were at a little over a 4x ROAS on Google AdWords, okay? And this is one of our consulting deals. And the following month, they were at a 0.8 ROAS, okay? There was a lot of stuff that happened in between that 60-day duration of time that caused such a dramatic drop. The business owner would naturally think, well, I need to pull back the spend going into the third month, right? Well, what would that do?
Well, the revenue would go down even more.
Right. It's like you would dramatically increase your probability of actually having a worse third month. You have to have a certain amount of numbers in business to reduce randomness and increase consistency. And to be clear, it's like I told the guy, I'm like, I know this kind of sounds a little ridiculous, but you got to spend into this third month. You still got to have enough numbers for, once again, randomness to be set aside and for your probabilities to play out well mathematically. And so the guy spends into it. ROI goes right back up to a 4x ROAS going into the third month. There were some tweaks that needed to happen with like messaging, some ads fatigued, and at the same time, salespeople had some issues. Point being, it's a lot of reactivity in business. Yeah, you read books?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Have you ever read the book? It's by Keith Cunningham. It's called The Road Less Stupid. You ever heard? Dude, my favorite books. So Keith Cunningham, first of all, is apparently the actual rich dad in the Rich Dad Poor Dad Kiyosaki saga. Okay, so like this guy, all right, look, I consider myself pretty direct. Okay, Keith Cunningham is like a Texan that is one of the most direct people I've ever met on earth. Okay, there is like no fluff in this guy's words at all, to the point in extremely articulate ways with like little to no emotion injected into it. And one of the beliefs that he articulates in this Road Less Stupid book is this concept called thinking time. Okay, so simple, but like really think about how powerful this is if you did it. Okay, so he says, we don't spend a lot of intentional time thinking as entrepreneurs. As business people, there's very little intent behind most of our actions that are pretty significant impact actions. Most people that are business people, once again, deal with things as they come up kind of on the fly. Okay, you might conversate about it occasionally to think things through, especially extroverted people, but there's very little like intentional thought into most things. So he introduces an exercise called thinking time. He says you grab a pen and a paper, you throw all your electronics aside, and as simple as it sounds, it's extremely effective. You write down the problem or a question. You put a little bullet point after it, and you just ponder on the question. You answer it with however many answers can come out, and typically there's another question that shows up right after. And then you do the same thing, question, answer, until you get to the end of this thinking time session with yourself. You typically have substantially greater clarity. And here's the thing, there's this. I don't think this is taught in Keith Cunningham's book. I actually don't know where this originated. I don't think I made it up either, to be clear. But it's a great mental model I follow. Unanswered questions equals stalled progress. Okay, so like think about it. If you have a bunch of shit that's just on your mind that's unanswered, are you probable to take action aggressively? No, you're probable to sit on it and not do shit. Versus as soon as you actually get those answers, right? What happens? You're immediately ready to bias towards the action. You see, so point being, when you do these thinking time exercises and you put a lot of intentional thought into things, especially in business, it typically leads you to a lot of like math-based questions, to create consistency. And more important than anything else, it leads to a bias of action. And if same kind of logic, you talk about staff culture, dude, you have your team do this kind of shit. It creates a little fucking team of money monsters, who are all just immediately moving towards the action on things. There's no real stalling points when you answer questions rapidly. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he has the whole book, once again, like at the end of every chapter, dedicated towards like different questions you could ask yourself. He has an entire event. Went to this in Austin, Texas, called the keys to the vault, I think is what he called it. Bro, this was 8 hours of him just like, all right, guys, here's the questions. And then like 30 minutes of silence and everybody answering questions. If you did as much as look at your phone during any point of that event, he kicked you out. I watched 3 people get kicked out. I almost got kicked out myself, bro. I was looking at it under the table like school, Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, no, I do thinking time all the time, And I same kind of logic. Like we encourage our clients to do it, like our staff and all that shit.
I noticed that too. It's like again, like you get so sucked into the operation sometimes, or sucking on drinking your own Kool-Aid, how cool your lifestyle is, instead of like, shut the fuck up.
So now that's one of the traits we look for, dude. Like anybody that internationally travels at an extremely high frequency, we don't fuck with, dude. Like we don't work with people like that, Have you ever seen the show Billions?
No.
Dude, great show. Highly encourage watching it. It's one of those shows that like whether you watch TV or not as a business person, like you should watch that show, bro. And in Billions, it's same thing in there's this other show called Succession. Okay.
Oh, I love that one.
Okay, so Succession. Do you remember when the dad towards the tail end of it, he was in like some club scene with the kids, and he was like, he looked at him, and he just goes, "You guys are not serious people."
Yeah.
You remember that part?
Yeah.
We look for serious people, bro. That's one of our strongest vetting characteristics, and we find all those people that like, once again, just look at the end of the day. Everybody that we work with has a fucking baller lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay. When you just compare them to like the general population. But when I say like we don't expect them to internationally travel at a high frequency, I just mean they're not fucking off. The people who I've known that get rich and then like lose all their money are the people who they do that dumb shit where they like think it's they think it's like high status to detach when they make more money.
Yeah.
Dude, the people who make the most money I know get even more involved when they make more money, not less involved.
Yeah.
So it's like, once again, that's one of those vetting characteristics we look for that signals to us whether they're going to be good or not.
Yeah.
And you fucking avoid those travelers like the plague, dude.
It's funny because I feel like nowadays everybody just wants to be fucking cool instead of making fucking money. What I mean?
It depends on who you know. Like everybody I know wants to get rich. Yeah.
Now, back to the idea of scaling your clients. So you vet them, you check out their numbers, you make sure everything's in order.
Yeah.
They're making whatever $200K a month. What are the first steps you do to instill the journey towards $1 million?
Great question. Sometimes it's as simple as amplification. We had one of our inner circle members the other day. He's like, he wrote this long thread, essentially asking for analysis as to whether he should make change or not. But he didn't put the ROI. And I followed up. I just go, hey, what's the ROI on this? And he said, we're at a 7X right now. What do you think I told that guy?
Double down, spend more.
I said, dude, spend more fucking money. Like, you don't need to do anything else. Don't change a thing. He was asking, like, what should I change? And I'm like, dude, you don't need to fucking optimize shit here. You need to spend more money. So, like, to be clear, like, sometimes it's genuinely that simple. Like, we can come in and just be like, okay, like the funnel you got right now works. Like, I just spend more money on it. A good example of things that aren't scalable, like DM strategies. Okay, so like one thing we see that some people do, and even when they're doing 100, 300K a month or more, is they'll drive traffic to their DMs and have like a fleet of setters in there. Okay, and some of these people, no joke, are working through like a couple hundred DMs a day.
Yeah.
And I tell them, I'm like, all right, let's say you're at 200K a month right now, and we 5X that to hit 1 million gross. Could your team handle 5X the volume in
We
DMs?
should have an AI.
And there's
just
just
replaced everyone with AI.
so here's the thing, like, yes, if you're leveraging tech,
Yeah.
100%. And that's a great example of what I mean. Like, essentially the point I'm trying to make is generally we can come in and amplify something. Sometimes, like in your example, we have to come in and like add a tech component, or we have to like scrap whatever they're doing and do a whole new funnel and like wait a couple weeks or a month or so to get them to adapt. And then we could start the amplification process. But like the main name of the game, dude, is like, let's get to the amplification point. So simply put, sometimes it's we have to come in and create a new funnel. Sometimes it's as simple as we need to amplify what they already got going. Sometimes we need to add to what they're already doing and then amplify. Sometimes, dude, I had this client, they just did 1.25 last month.
Nice.
Okay. And to be clear, this month they'll do more. I don't know how much. We're in the middle of the month, you know. But to be clear, I got this client in July. Okay. The advertiser that they had before me was so shit. We use that guy's name as a verb now for when things go wrong. We're like, oh, you got like blanked, you know? And so anyway, we have the story. Like, bro, this guy was like, I'll give you a great example, right? They were using a call funnel. Okay. And this is a very common funnel to hit $1 million.
An inbound call funnel? Or
Inbound call funnel, to be clear. So like VSL on the first page, application that qualifies people, sends the qualified people to schedule. That then goes onto the closers' calendars. We'll hammer the fuck out of people in between the calls with content and emails, try to warm them up as much as we can and create layup deals for the closers. Okay. So our favorite funnel strategies when we're talking $1 million months, especially with anything high ticket. But to be clear, okay, this guy in this example, we'll optimize in that kind of campaign from an advertising perspective, to get a little technical, for qualified people who hit the confirmation page after booking. We'll use a standard event like schedule or something like that as an example. To be clear, the people who then get sent back to that pixel are qualified people who booked a call, which is who we want the pixel to go after next. That's who we want the algo to focus on. This advertiser that I'm talking about that was doing a shit job before us coming in was optimizing for the qualified and unqualified applicants, not even scheduled calls. There were more unqualified people than qualified people, and 100% of those folks were getting sent back to the pixel. It was also a custom conversion that was being used. Super pro tip, if you're an advertiser listening to this, custom conversions, you have a lower probability to get the people that you want because that's only data that's isolated to your business and your business only. When you leverage standard events can be used by all advertisers. They have more data per user on who's taken those specific actions in the past. So you naturally increase your probability to get a better conversion and lower cost per conversion when you optimize based on a standard event, especially for a qualified standard event for whatever that is for your business. Point is, just coming in and being like, what the fuck is this guy optimizing the campaign for unqualified and qualified applicants for? Dude, their cost per qualified call was like $400. Okay, like we came in, listen, we get the cost per qualified call. They had 3 levels of qualified, okay? Unqualified, slightly qualified, and what they called an action taker.
Okay.
Bro, we had the highest qualified, the action takers, we got the cost per qualified action taker call to $40-something. Okay, and we were spending money. We were spending like $150K within that first month on just that funnel. Okay, dude, point is like, what do you think that does for the revenue right away? Just having such a simple change. Sometimes it's as simple as that. Like, I can't amplify what that guy's doing. I got to like tweak it a little bit. That's an example of a tweak. Then I can amplify the fuck out of it. And to be clear, okay, there's actually a guy who's in this house with us right now. His name is Josh. I highly recommend you meet and talk to Josh if you haven't already. He runs a sales organization. He calls Wires from Strangers, okay? And Josh is like one of those sales agencies. So only one I'll fucking work with, dude. I hate almost every sales agency that exists. They do such trash jobs in almost all instances. Josh is like, he's an outlier in that regard. He's an A player. Everybody's, he just, I don't know if I can say this or not. I won't say it. He recruited some serious fucking talent today from like a publicly traded company who was their sales director, to be clear, in terms of like the level of talent he works with in a sales organization. Okay, I digress. My point being, okay, I fix that problem and he's the sales agency on that deal. What I do is marketing knobs. So like I can immediately amplify my shit like a millisecond. And like overnight I can create new problems for the business. What's the new problems after you go from like damn near no qualified people on your calendars? Like overnight
calls.
But overnight their calendars were full. What do they have to do next?
To recruit more people.
How long does that take?
It takes fucking forever.
Yeah, so like we're talking a good like 3 to 4 week cycle there.
I mean,
just for them to start their recruiting. And they have high standards. That's why I love them. They have extremely high standards. They won't just hire because they need to hire. They will recruit intentionally and get the right people, put them through a rigorous training process, and then put them on the calls. So that's like, in his organization, maybe like 3 to 6 weeks.
And that's even fast already.
To be clear, dude, I can fill their calendars overnight, and then to be clear, I can't do anything after that. So then I have to wait. I have to wait 3-6 weeks until that gets solved. And then guess what? Well, then when the ball's back in my court, my shit's just marketing knobs again. I, without exaggeration, fill their calendar again as soon as those new people are on. And then what's that do again? It puts the ball back in his court. So when you have a lot of trust, to be clear, between your sales and marketing division and you're doing a call funnel like that, they just determined we're going to hire indefinitely. As long as Jeremy can continue just instantly filling calendars upon a new person coming in, there's no reason for us in any way, shape, or form to stop hiring because we're creating problems in the business's revenue by not having consistently new salespeople that are ready to take more calls. And that's my point is like, long story short, I generally need to come in, do something new, tweak something, amplify it, and then I kind of got to wait. The waiting game means my stuff's really fast. The other stuff that can happen or that can be exposed as problems might be people problems. And then that's like a multi-week, sometimes multi-month solution for us to implement, and that's where you just have to kind of chill and wait. And, it's a patience game from there and kind of like a maintenance mode thing until you reach that point where, that problem's solved and you can move on. You know what I mean?
Yep. What are good offers? How do you spot good offers?
Okay, great question. So to be clear, that's why we love the 100 to 300K a month range. It's to be clear, like we work with people all the time that do more than that too, but we have a lot of leverage in the deals where we get like the 100 to 300K a month people. Like we can come in. We've found time and time again that the people with the best offers are already selling. We don't typically gamble on something that's new or untested or unproven. And we just, once again, we look at the math of the funnel. So when I say the math of the funnel, it's like, okay, well, if they are doing any paid advertising, like cost per call being low can be indicative that the market you're marketing to is very well received to whatever that messaging is. You get a really good retention rate on a VSL as an example. Same thing, shows the people you're targeting have that problem. If you get a VSL that has one of those drop-offs where like people are barely even watching it for the first couple seconds, sure. You might need to change the first couple seconds of the VSL. Might not be indicative. The whole offer sucks. But like, I'll tell you what, I've seen funnels with pretty shitty VSLs and terrible openings that's still in a strong market. That retention is damn near flat across the whole thing, meaning people stick the whole time.
Yeah.
Once again, salespeople, that's a good one. You ready for this? This is a pro tip. If their sales team, in my opinion, sucks, but is still closing deals with strong statistics,
then
I know it's good. Okay, I know it's real good. I'll give you a good example. Like we had a team that we secret shopped the other day. I have so many little burner phones that I use just for secret shopping, and I got like this like little drawer like flip phones and shit, And I never thought I'd have a bunch of burners for fucking secret shopping sales teams, But anyway, so I asked, I was like, what's the show rate to this? Just curious. And dude, their show rate was in the 80s. And I was like, nice. Oh, that's strong. And I looked and like, dude, I got one email reminder that was like, just show up. Like I have some people that have a show rate of like 60, 70% that worked it up from like 30, sending 6 emails a day and like putting 15 to 20 pieces of content in front of people pre-call. And, you look at a client like that that's got one email, they get a fucking 80% show rate. That's a great indication that people want what's being sold. And then same thing, when you secret shop the sales team and like you look at what they're doing and you're just like, I can't even fucking believe that you're making what you're making and that your close rates are the way they are. Cause like you guys kind of sucked, like you guys weren't really good on the phones. Same kind of logic, like we love when we see those kind of statistics because it shows the offer is strong. There's people that we work with that have, just not like weak offers, but they're not like in strong demand. You kind of got to create the mindset in the buyer, like you've got this problem and I can help solve it. It's not like top of mind, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And those are typically the offers that, you'll have to work a little more for and like really focus on the stats throughout the funnel. And Make sure that, like I say, you do a lot more in comparison to a lot less, like that other example I provided. But point being, dude, that's like the strongest set of indications. It's just like the funnel stats through like ad stats, and then once again the sales side stats.
Where do you see like future of good offers now? I see a lot of AI stuff. Everybody's AI washing stuff. They're like, oh, let's just slap AI on top of it. It kind of fucking works. But over the next,
it does for sure.
Say it again.
I said right now it can work for
exactly. Sure. So what do you think is gonna be like super sexy in B2C and B2B market over the next 2-3 years?
I got to tell you, I live by this quote as a marketer, and I encourage all marketers to inherit this. I don't want to be right. I just want to make money. I don't necessarily try to create like offers or tell people like what they should be selling. I just observe the market like what you're doing now and think, well, I mean, that's what's working. Like that's what we'll pay attention to, I will say this, the things I notice most, to be clear, are like adaption-based offers. Like there's rarely instances inside of the like the world of business where there's like mass transitions, and this whole like AI tech boom is creating a giant demand for people thinking in scarcity and fear. It's creating this, I need to increase my skill set. I need to adapt to these scenarios that are coming up. In addition to that, like from a B2B side, it's just businesses trying to take advantage of the tech. Those offers are hot. And at the same time, there's like kind of niche offers. Like I'll give you an example, like the guy that introduced us here today, he works on a client that has a trading offer. It's like a trading bot. And I don't even think it necessarily leverages AI. It's just a fucking bot that trades. But like, dude, that offer's hot. Like I've seen him get paid a tremendous amount of money off of that deal. And to be clear, that client obviously gets paid even more money off of that deal. But like, I've seen that same exact offer just years ago.
I was going to say,
like, do nothing in comparison. Doesn't say it's like been highly skeptical people, like low hit rate. But now it's like, well, what changed? I mean, once again, like you got to take advantage of the trends. One of my past clients and a guy I really look up to in terms of like just intelligence, Mr. Ty Lopez. My buddy and I, we like to say Ty bless you when somebody sneezes. And anyway, moral of the story, Ty always talks about this very frequently. He's always like, you got to take advantage of trends when they come up. And this is a perfect example of what he's talking about. Doesn't mean you abandon your business or like just like wrap some AI shit around what you're doing. But my point being, it's like, okay, well, why did people's attention all of a sudden shift to thinking that a trading bot is legit? In comparison, a couple of years ago, they thought it was like total frivolous bullshit vaporware, Well, what changed is you occasionally get this, either to your benefit or unfortunately, to your demise, change in collective perspective on things, and it's typically done at a mass scale to where businesses don't have to be the one fronting the cash to change that perspective. You'd think about this, right? Like, I'll give you a good example. Anytime we do like a real estate based offer in the info space as an example, people already have the thought that real estate creates wealth. How did they get that thought?
Because the influencers talked about it. People literally like Tyler
all the time. Like it's not even just like the influencers, dude. It's just like a generational thought that's been handed down from generation and generation. It consistently holds true. You hear the same thing with stocks, give or take, what propaganda you're falling victim to out there, where you get these perspectives of, you can make a shitload of money investing, to be clear, the poorest people and the richest people still all have that same thought. When you can sell into a thought that already exists into the head of your buyers, you save a shitload of money and have a higher probability to convert more. Because that's the biggest thing that makes an offer hit is the thought already in someone's head. So to be clear, like there's core, industries and offer types that'll always hit because those thoughts are still in their head. But to be fair, like what you brought up, AI is like a new thought that's collectively being planted, and opinions are being generated in different demographics to either, like as an example, what do you think a factory worker thinks of AI? You think it's cool, or you think they're fucking shitting themselves, but it's going to take their job? Have you seen an Amazon warehouse full of robots?
Oh, yeah, that shit's getting crazy.
You work at a factory that's not Amazon and your business is getting richer. I mean, what do you think? You think you're going to hold your job for a long time? You're probably thinking, I got to start a fucking union here, because I'm going to lose my job to automation. Think about the here in the United States, just a couple of weeks ago, all the people working at the ports, they went on strike. One of the conditions of their strike, besides increased pay, was they did not want to be replaced by automation.
Oh, well,
see,
exactly
so like,
what's going to happen?
Think about that. And it makes perfect sense because when they went on a strike, thank God we have some kind of law here in the United States that disabled them from actually doing that shit. because it would have created a horrendous impact in an obviously negative way. But to be clear, they were prevented from doing that, thank God, at least until January. My point being, okay, that's what that person thinks about AI. Well, okay, you and I mean, we think, okay, well, I can't scale that DM campaign with people. I have fucking throw an AI there. You go. And by the way, I can train them on every historical DM conversation this business has had up to this point.
That's the crazy.
I can condition them exactly what I want them to talk about. I can change what they say. I can monitor the conversations at scale. I can analyze these conversations from a perspective where I don't have to rely on a person to give me data. You and I are thinking about it. We're like, it's fucking sweet. Yeah, it makes so much more money. Yeah. So think about that, right? Like the collective, okay, AI is coming. We think of it as it's fucking sick.
Yeah, of course.
The other half people are like, fuck, dude. Yeah. Like, so that's my point. Is like, okay, that creates an opportunity for offers in that case for both sides.
Exactly. Right? But also, if you're on the receiving end of that, if you're a DM setter, I'm like, go build a fucking AI chatbot.
100%.
Like, don't just sit around and fucking complain.
Thing.
It's exactly the same. It's like, remember Uber and all the cab drivers? All the cab drivers like, don't use Uber.
Yeah.
Or you fucking install Uber on your phone and become an Uber driver.
Dude, or you fucking rack up some cash. Think about those robo-taxis that you just came out with. I'd be so pumped if I was a cab driver. I'd be like, dude, I'm going to buy a fleet of fucking robo-taxis.
Exactly.
I understand this niche better than anybody else. I know the market to go to. I know my buddy's got a warehouse I can fucking store him in and let him charge. My point is like, dude, there's plenty of ways to obviously take advantage of different ideas that are a collective scale or fall victim to them. But from an offer perspective, dude, that's the best way to think, okay, is what are the thoughts that are already in somebody's head?
Exactly.
The demographic I specifically want to sell to, what kind of thought do they have? Do they even have a thought? If they don't have a thought, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder. If they do have a thought, that's typically an indication it's going to be a good offer. But once again, it depends on what the offer is and like whether it's going to benefit that specific demo or not,
Yeah. The funny thing is, too, is like, because then there's also the other camp of people like, oh, my job's so complicated, I'll never get replaced by AI. Well, you're not going to get replaced by AI, but you're going to get replaced by someone who knows how to fucking use AI to do an even better job than you.
100%.
And that's the whole idea behind it. I love hanging out with Jeremy. And if you love this episode so far, drop us a like, leave a comment if you watch this on YouTube. If you listen to this on Spotify or iTunes, drop us a 5-star rating. Why is this so key for you? Why do you profit from that? Well, the more you do that, the more our channel grows, the more awesome guests I can get on for you and share those entirely for free. I don't got a sponsor on this podcast yet. Maybe I will at some point. But until then, all you got to do is click the like button, drop us a comment. Max, you stink. I don't mind. Anything. Because it helps the algorithm and it reaches more people. Thank you so much. Love you. And now let's get back to the episode. Now, what do you think, to get a little bit more metaphysical here, what do you think is the reason why most people don't do that? Why are so many people in a quote unquote state and they rather just go protest?
Well, most people don't necessarily change until they have to. Okay.
Why is that
great book? Well, there's a great book called Evolutionary Psychology. Okay, the same thing, recommended by Mr. Tai Lopez. And by the one that it's a black cover with like a gorilla on it, okay? Yeah. Some kind of monkey. And okay, moral of the story, in this book talks about all kinds of tremendous lessons. But around the topic you just brought up, it just essentially says, okay, well, if you look back in the day when we were tribal and just like hunter-gatherers, when would we really have to exert our effort? Well, when we needed food, if we had to like build a village or some shit for shelter, if we needed to find new water source or something, if we needed to defend ourselves, Well, think about this. What were we doing the rest of the time?
Preserving energy.
And why?
That's how you survive.
Well, to be fair, it's like, well, we don't have an abundant amount of food like we do in today's day and age. Mm-hmm. So back in the day, it's like if you and the bros go hunt a fucking tiger or something, and you kill something and you bring it back, it's like that can serve you for a little bit, but you need to chill out on those calories and not burn them because you don't have another animal you can immediately consume after. There's not infinite berries, there's not infinite fucking food sources back in the day. So we're ingrained to essentially go out and get something and then sit on it. Okay, go out and get something after it starts to dwindle and we're forced to. When we start to run out of food, it's like, well, I'm going to go get more food. Now it is the same thing with money. It's like, okay, well, I got a little nest egg. I'm going to chill for a little bit until it kind of dwindles to like a certain threshold, and I'm going to go out and get more money. When you fall victim to that, which I'm not going to make up a percentage, but there's a fuckload of people who fall victim to that. You don't do what you should do when it comes to consistent expansion because you're just repeating that same cycle. You're just like, well, I'm going to wait for that threshold to kick, and then I'm going to go do it. So that could also, outside of money, and food, obviously, that could be job security as well. It's like, well, why would I go exert all the energy on a new skill? You know how much fucking energy it takes to acquire a new skill? I'll give you a great example. It was last April, right here in this room. There was a guy in our inner circle group. He says, I'm making $400K to $1 million a month trading. Okay. And I was like, are you shitting me? And he was like, guess what? It takes me only a couple minutes a day. He said some audacious shit. He said it takes him 20 minutes a day. I was like, I'm thinking this guy's full of shit. Who did I bring in front of my mastermind here? So anyway, because he's a speaker, he's staying here at the house. On Monday morning, okay, he literally, I watch him 10 minutes. He did a little under 40K. And we got in the car. We go get one of my Ferraris out here. We go around the street to Best Buy. We get this. He told me I got to buy a PC. I don't have a single fucking PC product ever. And we get a fucking Surface Pro Tab. And he gets me all set up with this shit. And from April through that entire end of the year was like, oh, it was so hard, bro, to learn that skill. It was so emotionally devastating, give or take the day, or extreme emotional highs. And it wildly impacted my day's performance just in this skill acquisition part of the process. But it's like, okay, you fast forward to, as an example, a month ago. I won't say the exact amount to be fair, but dude, I did a couple $100,000 just last month and pocketed money off that skill. Okay. I was just shy of where he said he was at. And matter of fact, I'm giving him a fucking AP this weekend just to say thank you because of that fucking skill he showed me. But my point is, dude, the skill acquisition took an insane amount of fucking emotional bandwidth, time and effort. It took way more than fucking 20 minutes a day, dude. It's taking hours and hours. I had to watch so many YouTube videos, have so many conversations, spend so much money to acquire the skill. And like I said, I mean, this is an unrealized thing until all of a sudden it's working out for you. So it's like, what am I risking? I'm risking everything I just described: money, emotional stability, my stress levels. You know what I mean? I'm risking my time. And to be clear, it's like, I'm already in a financially well-off position, right? I don't need to do any of that. I could just amplify what I'm already doing. That was a huge risk that I took. Okay. Now, my point being, that's all I'm trying to say. Why would any person who's already in a great spot, and great spots are self-perceived. It's like, you could be working a fucking job as a gas station cashier and be like, I'm chilling, dude. I'm fine. I'm all my costs are covered. I get to do what I like to do. And there's nothing wrong with that at all to that person or to me for that matter. My point being though, dude, it's this unsatiated, thirst for more and demand from yourself to constantly expand and take risks like that. It's so unnatural, dude. It's as extremely intentional thing to do.
Yeah.
Is the point I'm trying to make. You see, why don't most people do it? Who the fuck would want to do it? It's hard. People don't, once again, it's based on evolution. They don't want to fucking go out there and exert energy when they don't have to. The default state is kick back, wait until you have to. And think about that. That's what you commonly hear that as, the back against the wall. When somebody's back's against the wall, they always perform. Miraculously, they always perform and get the result. But what really is that? That's a forced, you have to go do it. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, so anyway, until you're forced to do it, you're not doing shit in most instances, unless you're extremely intentional about it.
So what was it for you, if you look at old, young Jeremy, right, before he starts crushing? What was it for you that ignited that spark that said, get the fuck up, go do awesome shit, make a ton of money?
Yeah, it was my circumstances. I always knew the ultimate truth in life was all decisions come down to the amount of money you have or the amount of money you don't have. It's like where I remember, going to some games when I was a kid. I grew up in Ohio here in the United States, and the basketball team there was the Cleveland Cavaliers, and LeBron James, if you know that guy, was
I know LeBron.
I went to a school right next to a city where LeBron was. He went to a little private school called St. Vincent, St. Mary, and we were one city over from that. Okay, so LeBron went into the league fresh out of high school. It was a big fucking deal, right? And we go up to the game. We would sit in the fucking nosebleeds, dude. We'd sit all the way up at the top. And I remember one time I asked, I was like, why are we up here? Why don't we get to sit down there? And my dad was just like, I mean, it's just how it is, man. Like, it's nothing wrong. At least we're here, right? And he would never tell me like, well, it's just because of money, And as I grew older, I kind of realized, wow, every single thing's going on. It's just because of money. One of my buddies, he was one of my best friends growing up. He, unfortunately, had his father had passed away when he was 16, and he inherited all kinds of crazy shit, a business, a bunch of houses, and a tremendous amount of responsibility. But at 16, I got to start seeing like one of my best friends literally run like a business, and I got to watch the benefits of money. And he was extremely transparent with us about like what was happening, and he'd even ask for our help here and there if we could help. Point being, okay, this contrast of like limitations in my household versus like my buddy who had like what perceived at the time was like infinite money. I was like, dude, this is fucking sweet. Like, you got 3 houses because you got more money. You got a whole fucking massive amount of acreage because you got more money. I didn't grow up like in poverty, to be clear, but it's like it was lower middle class, the best way to describe it. Like the home that I grew up in 2020 sold for $119,000. Okay. And I think they bought it for like $90,000, if that puts in perspective the appreciation between like the 90s and fucking 30 years later. You know what I mean? Point I'm trying to make. My circumstances growing up made me aware of this idea, like money's going to determine what I get to do or what I don't get to do. So that kind of sparked it for me. It sparked this idea of something really simple.
Yeah.
I just need to pursue a better opportunity than whatever I've got now. I got to focus on what I'm doing, but I can't get attached to what I'm doing. I've really got to get sold on this. What's the next thing that's going to help me get to that next level? So that would just be as simple initially as like get a better job, and then get another better job. And eventually I got a job where I was like, I think my skills, I could go sell these to businesses at this point. And then that's what started my marketing agency. And then it just same logic on deals, it was like, all right, you get pretty shitty deals when you first start your marketing agency, they're not the best. And it's like, all right, I need to get better deals. I need to win with this client, and I need to pimp that case study out into a better client. And then I need to win for them at a bigger level and then get a bigger deal,
Yeah.
And then eventually, you just get this fleet of a bunch of fucking great deals, and you keep getting better deals, and the game goes on. But I think most people, they rather convince themselves their circumstances aren't bad. I did the opposite. I just always said, I was like, there's nothing I want more than better circumstances. I don't want to settle into what I am now. I want to expand and reach greater potential than where I'm currently at. And these things just, they just developed through time. And then I became self-aware probably around 20, 23, 24 maybe. Your brain doesn't even develop fully until you're 25, apparently. You don't even really get self-awareness until 25,
That's crazy.
So after I became self-aware, I started to really like milk these things a lot more. So thankfully, at a younger age, I was able to, exploit that.
Yeah.
And thankfully have it exist. But I don't know. I don't see that in everybody for sure.
Regarding self-awareness, what would you consider are like your strengths, your personal strengths, primary, secondary strengths that have helped you on this journey?
Oh man. I mean, there's a ton. Okay. So first of all, I would start with integrity and having strong ethics. Okay. I, as an example, like when I go into deals, like I want to win, not just for my own selfish benefit. I want the other party to win too. And in the instance that I fail, it's like I have a strong track record of bad deals. I just refund them their money, and try to like move on in a way that doesn't create like a lot of horrendous, like negative outcomes for them. I really like to make sure that I base almost everything I do off like ethics and just like a high level of integrity. Once again, like the characteristics, when you talk about just like characteristics of an A player, all these things really start to come out when you're, operating. Mm-hmm. So I would say just every single thing that you could fall under the umbrella of like A player traits, makes or breaks like a lot of your potential. I think this desire for constant expansion also helps benefit everybody around me. I also think being aware of my selfish drivers, it's really beneficial.
Yeah, what are those?
For both myself and everybody else. Well, first of all, I want to get obscenely richer than I am now. And I'm extremely transparent about that in every deal that we do and just in business, period, you know? Everything that I do, once again, I understand it needs to be a win-win relationship. I have this foundational belief of I need to get other people richer to get richer myself. So there's typically a lot of benefit for, the counterparty that works with me because they achieve typically a greater amplification than what I achieve because I get like a piece of what I get then.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. Anyway, point I'm trying to make, selfish drivers, okay? So like when it comes to the rich, they're like, I want to get a hell of a lot richer stuff. That's one of my biggest drivers, dude. It's just money, freedom, choice. Once again, like improving my circumstances. I love to benefit everybody around me. I love the world around me expanding too. Point I'm trying to make is, dude, if you're unaware or if you're trying to like conceal or virtue signal what you're actually doing stuff for, I think that concealment is like the enemy of progress. I think that there's not really a lot of people in life that have advanced substantially when they are concealing their intentions and like, being hidden and trying to be like under the radar and things like this. There's a lot of comfort that comes from just revealing what you're about and why, and when you play into those characteristics, dude, I've seen a lot of benefit from it. Once again, I've seen a lot of benefit in others. I talk about that too, as well, of course, but yeah, anyway, selfish motives. Everybody's selfish motives are different, point being though, when you can align selfish motives of self and others, that's typically when you hear like those win-win deals.
Yeah.
That's in my opinion what a win-win is once again, both parties achieve what they want to achieve in an outcome.
Yeah.
But that's where I say like the transparency is required, with one another to say like, this is what I'm here for, this is what you're here for. Like, oh yeah, sounds good. We can do it,
Yeah.
So anyway, selfish motive, constant desire for expansion and growth. Once again, all the circumstances I grew up with driving me to just want to get richer. That foundational belief of if I get others richer, I can get richer myself. And then backing all that foundationally with, I'll do all that from a perspective of whatever's ethical and high integrity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think all those in combination create my, my character that I consistently am. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting you brought that up, this whole like being consistent with what you're on the inside with also how you're communicating on the outside with those thoughts, words, actions aligned. Because it's also a conservation of energy in and of itself. Because if you constantly have to maintain a facade of like, I am the guy who wants, but you actually don't believe it, it fucks with you. Really like I could, for example, never be like a Tony Robbins kind of guy who doesn't swear, who's just like, it's like, hey, I just want everybody to get up and that's not me. You know what I mean? So I want to be known for the guy. Okay, I swear, I call people out on their bullshit, and I'm totally fine. Maybe I even make fucking less money from that if I would be Tony Robbins, Mr. Clean.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do that because ultimately I'm in it for the long run. If I can't do it for the long run, then I'm not going to succeed at it in the long run either.
No, and that's the best part about being essentially like transparently selfish.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
you know why you're doing what you're doing and how you want to go about doing it, so you can essentially see in real time what's going to be to your benefit and what's going to make you like essentially hate it.
Yeah.
Really think about that. Like a lot of people out there, they're doing stuff they hate. They're not even aware of why they hate it because they're not necessarily aware of what they want in comparison.
Yeah.
So they go from like opportunity, just kind of waiting to find something that fits what they unknowingly like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I try to procreate, environments, circumstances, deals that are all just stacked things that I like, and it creates a life that I truly enjoy. And, makes me, I think like it really brings a lot of strong characteristics out of myself, It's what in itself drives a lot of expansion of potential. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you learned trading over the course of a few months, what was that driven by? Just curiosity?
No, just once a year. I just wanted to get richer. Like when one of your buddies tells you, dog, it's going to take 20 minutes a day. You can make a couple $100,000 a month. I'm like, well, I got fucking 20 minutes a day. Like, is that really all it takes? And to be clear, once again, it didn't take that long. You didn't just be transparent. But like, dude, it really doesn't take more than about, 2 hours a day from me. But to be fair, it's like, I always like to be transparent. I'm in the top 1% of everything I do, but physical. Okay. That's the only thing I'm not in the top 1% of. But to be clear, it's like, dude, I put so much intention behind that skill acquisition because I knew it could take way longer if I didn't, like with anything. So to be clear, it just aligned to, the outcomes I want. It made perfect sense, like freedom, more money, wouldn't have any kind of delivery or fulfillment on the other side of it, which I also thought was really cool. And honestly, I just kind of thought to myself, I was like, I like to think in this, speaking of Tony Robbins, check this out. When I was first getting rich, I saw him talk about this shit he called your 2.0 self. And I remember, those like giant sticky notes? Like I'm talking the big ones, almost like a whiteboard size sticky note. So he was like, all right, you're going to draw a little character in the middle of it. And you're going to put it at the top, like Jeremy 2.0 in this case, okay? And you're just going to draw a bunch of little dashes around it. And you're going to list the characteristics of what you want your next self to like look like and be as a person. Like circumstances, traits, like how you are kind of things. And I remember I first did this shit. And I put it on the wall. It was the point of the sticky note. Just hung it on the wall in my apartment at the time. And I'd look at it. I'd be like on a sales call just staring at it. And I would try to like start to just behave in those ways. You know what I mean? And anyway, today, I know this might sound a little ridiculous, okay? But I've done that same exercise 27 times. You could technically say I'm like Jeremy 27.0. And anyway, moral of the story, in my current like how I view myself next, like characteristic list, I just thought it made sense. Like, look, I'm 30 now, okay? And at the end of the day, at 30 years old, there's like these milestone-based transitions that occur in your life, whether you're aware of them or not. I try to be aware of them, which is like, okay, what does your life look like when you're like 40? What's your life look like when you're 50? Like, can you picture yourself with how fit you are, what you eat, where you are, how many homes you got, what you drive, what your wife looks like, what your boyfriend looks like, whatever the fuck you're into, what your kids look like, whether you got kids or not, where they go to school, how many homes you got, what do they look like, where are they at, how do you fly, how do you travel, what kind of bags you carry, like what you wear, what your style look like, all these little things. And unknowingly to most people, they'll hit different milestones. And these milestones come with age, they come with circumstances, they come with like money milestones. And people start to behave differently kind of unknowingly, But these are all typically characters we create that are almost just like sitting dormantly in our subconscious that wait to come out when one of these things activates. And then all of a sudden you just like change, okay? So for me, the whole trading thing, it really just was what I felt like made sense, in terms of this next phase of my life as a skill I should have. It seems like every extremely rich person I know, like you know that classic, like all millionaires all have like 7 streams of income shit. I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's more so just all the fucking super rich people I know. They've got hell of a lot of money coming from real estate passively to lower their tax burden as well. They've got a hell of a lot of money coming passively from different investments they've made. They've got a hell of a lot of money potentially from like business exits, cash flow from businesses. They've got tremendous net worths. My point being, it just made sense for my character, and yeah, not to virtue signal at all. A couple $100,000 a month sound cool too, regardless of all that shit. Yeah, I thought it was sweet. It just made sense. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
How much did the numbers thinking that you've acquired through marketing help you with the skill of trading, if at all?
Well, I'll tell you what, you do a lot of math when you're a marketer, a good marketer that is, and you think in probabilities. And you also think in risk. I consider advertising gambling, meaning, okay, you and I go into a casino. Like, do you know how to gamble at all?
I used to play semi-professional poker.
So that's your game.
Yeah.
What if I told you we had to play blackjack? How would you feel in terms of confidence and certainty with that?
Couldn't do it. I wouldn't.
So me, it's like, well, I don't know any fucking table games. I don't know the probabilities of slots. I read this book called Addicted by Design, and it's all about slot machine probabilities. It's like such a good book if you're into probabilities. But to be clear, it's like, if I walk into a casino, that's why it's gambling. I am oblivious to the probabilities that are in my favor or against me. I am oblivious to the strategies that are necessary for me to implement to increase the probabilities in my favor. But I might walk in thinking, I got $1,000, like, I'll play some games and like maybe I can win some money. That's a good scenario. But I'm comfortable to lose it if I lose it. And because I don't have an edge, it's like I'm fucked. And once again, the probabilities are definitely not in my favor.
Yeah.
I'm probable to lose. Advertising is kind of the same. It's like, if you've got the right ad strategies, if you've got the right funnel strategies, you got the right offers, you got the right team players, you got the right business executives, dude, those are all edges. Those things, those characteristics, those traits, those circumstances, they give you the edge that you need to have a high probability of spending money on ads and getting it to work. I think trading's kind of the same, like once you get an edge, once you actually develop a perspective of, I think I figured something out here that might increase my probability in comparison to just making it feel like it's gambling. When you first start doing it, dude, it just looks like fucking colored lines going in different directions. And you're just like, the fuck is, it feels like gambling. It feels like a casino, Whereas like eventually when you're like, I can start to recognize some patterns here and I can start to see like how this is playing out. And I can kind of see like, I might be able to capture a little bit of this move, when this particular pattern starts to play out, It's the same thing in advertising in that sense of it's gambling until you develop your edge, and then once you develop an edge, it no longer becomes gambling. It becomes a game of like, probabilities. So yeah, pretty similar, not the exact same, but it definitely correlated. It felt like, it felt like a lot of my skills were transferable to that.
Interesting. Yeah. We've talked a lot about hitting $1 million a month. What about, so 0 to 1 million a month there's a lot of fundamentals you need to get right.
Dude,
and we're
0 to
certainly not
100K. 0 to 100K is like a totally fucking different game in comparison.
Exactly.
100 to a million.
Exactly. So what's the game look like from $1 million to 10 million or
Dude,
5?
Great question. So to be clear and very transparent, we had 2 deals that have gotten to 5 million and 5.5 million a month. Okay. And I've never had a deal go to 10 million a month. I've had clients that I've worked with that are at 10 million a month that are like leveraging our marketing skills and like consulting deals. And, we're helping them, but like, I can't in any way, shape, or form say we got them to 10 million a month.
Yeah.
We just helped them like maintain it in a sense, or like add another million or two. The perspective there, like I always tell people this. So I have one of these homes that I have here is a penthouse in downtown. Okay. And I usually tell like new marketers this. I'm like, all right, look, because of the amount of money I spend on advertising, I have a perspective of being like at the top of the building. I can talk to you about a view in which when you're at the bottom of the building, regardless of how I describe it, that's the only way you're going to be able to see it is based on how I describe it. Until you get up there yourself and see it for what it is, you just got to take my word for it that it's this way. Okay. And our differences in perspective when you're on the first floor versus like the fucking 60th are extreme. Okay. My point being, like every single $10 million a month company I've worked in or like gotten the opportunity to work with or even just studied, they operate as like a corporation. Their traits are very different than the people that get to $1 million months or even like $5 million months. There's a lot of speed that comes at the smaller levels, as shocking as it might sound. There's like a tremendous amount of consistent stability that's focused on. Not a lot. There is expansion-oriented actions that are focused on. But it's like more about maintenance and consistency and stability at those bigger levels. And I'll tell you what, dude, from what I've seen, like the businesses that get to 5 mil, oh my God, it is daunting. There's a lot of things that have to go right for you to double that up and get another 5 and get to 10. As an example, like I won't say his name to be clear, but one of the clients that we've worked in that hit 10 million a month did so for like almost 2 years in a row. And it was, remember we talked about trends at the beginning of this? It's like everything was right, but at the same time, a massive trend started to play out to this person's benefit that just kind of created like a natural amplification without really having to spend more money.
Sick.
It's like everything started to go well because essentially they were already doing well pre-trend. Trend started to happen. Trend like just carried them up to a higher level than what they would ever have been at if they didn't have that happen.
Yeah.
And I've seen that now 3 different times with the $10 million a month businesses where it's like think about it like this, right? Like, great example, okay? Facebook's already at some points $1 trillion company, okay? At the smallest nowadays, a couple $100 billion, okay? And their worth. Facebook for years now, for like the entire time I've used them, has some of the most advanced AI shit ever. Okay. And to be clear, Zuckerberg over there, the entire organization, they have amplified the amount of AI related shit they've been doing recently. I think without exaggeration, I think Zuckerberg's whole business could triple based on different AI related software and trends being utilized in his ad platforms to make like regular businesses, smaller businesses who would never pay a marketing agency or like they've never really gambled on advertising before start to spend money with them. I know it might sound crazy given the quantity of businesses guys like you and I know are spending on ads. But like, dude, really think about how many businesses have never even spent money on ads. Think about the guys you know that do a couple hundred. There's one in this house right now who's just saying, oh yeah, dude, I do like 700-800K a month on my business, but I don't even spend money on ads. I barely spend anything.
Yeah.
Well, okay, to be clear, a lot of that's because think about the amount of businesses you know that have been fucked by agencies. They've even tried. They've hired like 2 or 3 and they've just been like, I give up.
Yeah.
Think about, okay, to be clear, and this will sound kind of crazy for the marketing world, but think about when AI gets to the point where it can replace a marketer and actually create, even at a small level right now, it can do it to a degree.
Yeah.
A simplified way for a business to start advertising, make more money, and to be clear, give that money to Zuckerberg and Facebook. You don't think they could triple what they do? It's like, I do. And to be clear, that's a perfect example. Dude, Zuck could literally go from $1 trillion to $3 trillion just based on a trend that's currently playing out that's not going to go away. It's just going to be better and easier. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a perfect example at such a grand scale, you know? And at the same time, like there's so many small businesses that deal with the exact same stuff where like, once again, they're already doing like 5 million and they get carried. They literally just get like lifted gracefully to 10 million without much effort at all from a trend. I have, believe it or not, I've not seen anybody grind it out to $10 million a month. I've not, and the ceiling for some reason, as crazy as it sounds, is generally somewhere between like 1 and 5 million a month. And I don't say that to impose a limitation onto people who are like trying to hit $10 million months. I say it, I mean, keep in mind, once again, it takes to even hit 10 million a year, 0.1% of businesses hit that level. It's like, why are there even fewer businesses that hit $10 million months? It's like, well, there's got to be some kind of fucking secret magic shit that carries them up to that level. And it can't just be like the same, you know, amplification strategies we're talking about to hit $1 million months.
Yeah.
So it's also important to note that, just to be fair, I played a game of trying to get businesses to $1 million months. So if I fully committed to the audacious game of trying to get businesses to $10 million months, I'm sure I'd have different answers. Based on my current game that I play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might not know.
Or maybe we'll fucking get there, man. I mean,
That'd be sweet.
Dude, I want one before we have to wrap up in a bit.
Yeah.
But one last thing I want to ask you: did you hire a hypnotist?
Yeah.
To mind fuck you into certain things?
Okay, so there's this guy who grew up where I did. His name's Rob Deerdeck. You know who that is?
No.
So Rob Deerdeck used to be a skateboarder.
Oh, Rob Zerdek. Yeah.
Oh, he used to be a skateboarder.
Dude,
Okay?
I used to watch his show, man.
Yeah. Okay. So then he came out with the TV shows like Robin Black.
Exactly.
And then he had the Fantasy Factory, and then he had Ridiculousness, and now he's a venture capitalist. Like Rob's fucking big time. But he has more than $100 million in net worth, and I'm sure without exaggeration, he'll be a billionaire within the next decade. Okay, and I don't say that in like an exaggerated way. I think like mathematically he's on pace to do it. And anyway, I look up to Rob because, like I said, he grew up where I grew up, and he's worth $100 million. So if you look at guys like that, and you're like, what the hell are you doing? So I'm on YouTube. I'm watching a random clip. It's like a 4-minute clip that was recommended to me of Rob saying some shit. And this is what he said. He goes, the guy goes, Rob, what would you test your success to? And Rob goes, I tested to getting hypnotized for success by Dr. George Pratt in La Jolla, California. And I immediately stopped the video. I'm like, what the fuck did he just say? So I Google, I'm like, Dr. George Pratt, La Jolla, California. And I see this guy's website. Like, here it is, black and white, like hypnotism for success. And I'm like, I have no idea what the fuck this means, dude, but I'll call him right now. So I call the office. His assistant, Heather, answers. I book in an appointment, and I ended up doing 3 appointments back to back to back for 90 minutes.
In person or over phone?
In person. I did these in person. You can do them, and I have done them on FaceTime with Dr. George. And I don't prefer one or the other. I initially thought, to be honest with you, I preferred the in-person stuff, but I don't know, being in your own environment and doing the things you need to do to get hypnotized, I think can actually help you get hypnotized. More so than being in a foreign environment. So anyway, though, so he's in the neurological division of the San Diego hospital. Okay, this is where his office was at the time. And I show up and I'm like, holy shit, dude, like, what, do you hypnotize at a hospital? Okay, and it's kind of like a bait and switch at first, because like you're there to get hypnotized for success, but the first thing you got to do is undo trauma. So it's like, to be clear, the very first thing he does is he makes you articulate yourself for like what's traumatized you, what you think's holding you back. And you have to go through all this stuff with him. And then you do this crazy shit he calls emotional release. There's like these different spots on your body he'll have you tap and rub and like turn into anchor points is what they're called. And then you can officially get hypnotized.
Oh, sick.
So like the first session was talking with him. The second session was doing this emotional release shit. The third one was my hypnotism, okay? And I'll never forget this. Do you have a little voice in your head? Like when you talk in your head, like you can like it's like a voice. You know what I mean? Okay. Apparently, some people out there don't have that, just so you don't know that.
Fuck them.
So I don't know. It's crazy to me if you don't have a voice in your head. But to me, it's like sometimes that can create some unproductive, like, I don't know, like randomness in a sense. You know what I mean? I don't always feel like fully in control of it, if that makes any sense. So, okay. I leave the hypnotism and that voice is just fucking gone. Like, it was so weird, bro. It's like my thoughts were like visions instead of a voice. And I felt like so in the fucking zone, dude. Like, you know what I'm talking about? You just like peak in the zone. Like, I'm talking like your best, most productive time you've ever had in your whole life. Just in the fucking zone kind of behavior. I was in that for like 6 months straight, dude. And I will never forget how I constantly say I was the greatest personal development investment I've ever made. I go do it on an annual basis, bro. That's how serious I take that shit. And Dr. George, he's not at the San Diego hospital anymore. If you're existing client of his, you can go do it at his house now in La Jolla. But if you're new, I'm pretty sure he only does it on FaceTime now. Which, once again, don't worry about that. It's still super effective. I've done a few in this house, like up in that room up there. So here's the crazy part, right? Like, you'll think, it depends. Like, there's different states you can find yourself in when you do the hypnosis itself. You might think you fell asleep. And, like, you might not think you even got any benefit. Like, you'll literally just wake up when he says wake up, and you'll be like, was I asleep? You know, I've had times where I know I'm asleep, meaning, like, I'm in my head conscious about what he's saying and what's happening, but I can also recognize like my body's in a state where it's like not moving and asleep and my eyes are closed, but like it's the weirdest shit, dude. It's almost like you can like see what's happening, even though your eyes are closed and your body's asleep. And then I've had these other times like half and half where it's kind of in between those two states. And they call that a hypnagogic state, just to be clear, when you're like aware, but you're asleep. Okay, now to be clear, dude, the shit this is why I think I love Ferraris. Like, I remember one hypnotism, he talked to me about stallions in the hypnotism. He just kept talking about the power. He's like, when you see a stallion, like the power of the stallion, like embrace. And there's this book here in the United States, a children's book. It's called The Little Engine That Could.
Yeah, I know.
As an adult, I have a copy of The Little Engine That Could. And when I like look at that book, dude, instantly in the zone. Not joking at all. There's shit. Dude, there's trigger points on my body that I could literally like press a particular way that will also get me into that fucking zone, dude. It's like the coolest shit. I think I've never like heard anything like this, seen anything like this before that Rob Deerdeck interview. And I remember, dude, the second time I showed up for hypnotism, he asked me, he goes, Jeremy, if there's one characteristic about yourself you want to amplify, what is it? What would make all the difference in your success? And I just think it's so fucking cool, you know? Because like, you could say anything, and like he'll literally hypnotize you to like amplify that characteristic.
It's like stats in a character.
I swear, yeah, it's literally just like, it's how I think about it every time I go, and I love it, dude.
What was your answer to that?
The first one was focus.
Oh, no shit.
I asked around too. I didn't actually have an answer myself. He prompted me at the end of one of our conversations. He said, when you come tomorrow, make sure you have an answer. I called like a lot of people I know. I called the staff I had. I called the clients I was working with. I was like, what do you think? And the very consistent answer for some reason was focus. And I was like, all right, fuck it. You know, like, let's give it a shot. And I think it helped a lot. That's the thing. I was studying hypnotism at the time. One of my favorite authors is a guy named Richard Bandler. He has some great books like Frogs into Princes, Your Brain for a Change. And it's really awesome that he's wrote what he's wrote. But all his books are for psychotherapists. And he has a 2-part series on hypnotism. And I just coincidentally at the time I was reading that interview, or actually watching that interview, was reading one of those books. And I went into it with like a frame of like what hypnotism could do. And I'm not sure if that's helped me like get a lot of benefit from it or like placeboed me into the profound effects of it. But I mean, I've sent a lot of people over there, man. And I consistently get great feedback on the outcomes that people achieve when they go get hypnotized. So,
well, you just sent me to that.
I'll tell you what. Literally, you let me know when you go, and let me know what you think.
I'll hit him up in the fucking Uber already, dude.
I'll send you his assistant's email if you want. Once again, her name's Heather.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
Yeah, you'll just fucking book out. And remember, he does 45 minutes, and 90 minutes. I've never done the 45 minutes.
Fuck it.
I truly don't think it'd be appropriate.
Yeah.
And dude, it's nothing crazy, by the way. You pay like a couple $100 for like per 90-minute session. So
I was ready to pay
for like
the guy
3
20.
90-minute sessions is like no joke, bro. You'll probably be like under $3,000 for like the whole fucking shebang.
Holy
And
shit.
dude, can't stress enough. I've probably done it without exaggeration like 40 something times. And it's so fun, bro.
I love it. Well, Jeremy, you're a fucking legend.
Yeah,
How
thanks
can
for having me, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. How can people find you? How can they reach out to you? How can we
Yeah,
work
check
with
me
you?
out on YouTube, first of all. If you want a bunch of content on making $1 million months, more realistic for yourself, just look up Jeremy Haynes. My Instagram's @Jeremy. Sometimes you still got to look up my name in there, though, Jeremy Haynes, in order to see @Jeremy. But you can shoot me a DM. I'm pretty active on there. I don't use LinkedIn at all. Don't fucking hit me up on LinkedIn. Well, yeah, man, I'm pretty open. Just shoot me a DM if you got questions or something. I'll help you out.
Boom. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Have me on, man. I love this. It's fun.
Hell yeah.
All right, so Jeremy helps people go to $1 million a month if they're already advanced. A lot of folks listening to this and watching this, including you, are probably more like, okay, Max, how can I start building a business? How can I use my existing business and start getting to around $100K a month? Well, ask no longer, because now AI can do 80% of that, maybe even up to 90% for you. In fact, I've established a stack of AI systems that I'm using in my own company that I've been rolling out for my high-ticket clients, and it's never been easier for any normal, regular, average Joe person to start, build, and automate their coaching business with the help of AI. If you want in on that, book a free call with me and my team. Call's entirely for free. It's entirely no pressure, no commitment, no nothing. On the call, we'll tell you more about how this AI system works. We'll tell you more about how you can get your first clients, how you can automate everything. It's all entirely for free. maxtornow.com/call. The link is also down in the description below. Let's make some money together. We're super happy to help you and talk to you soon.